you believe that he played a role in his own death?
What he actually said is that Muhammad is not sacred to me.
Right.
He's not sacred to me either. I'm a Catholic. But I don't go around insulting Muslims intentionally by thrashing the prophet. They do it, and they do it all the time, and they've been warned about it. These are pornographers who disguise themselves as satirists. Does it justify this barbarism on the part of Muslims? Of course it doesn't. What I am saying is this, though. That's not the only issue on the table. Couldn't there be some degree of restraint exercised by people in the artistic community, both in the United States and abroad? And wouldn't that make for a more civil society?
Well, that's the opinion and the words, of course, of Bill Donahue, the head of the Catholic League. He was with us last week. He caused quite a stir. Earlier today, we had Pat Buchanan on, who said, I'm not marching for that outrageous, offensive, disgusting magazine. And now we're joined by Bernard Toutounji, who is an Australian writer, speaker, and commentator. Hello, Bernard.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I am fine. And your column, I Am Not Charlie Hebdo, equally as controversial.
Yeah, it did spark a bit of controversy. I guess I thought that would be the case, but I thought that sort of had to be said, that one just can't, much like Bill was saying from Bill Donahue, that you just can't go out and insult and mock and deride and expect nothing to happen. And of course, it's not to say that anyone deserves to die, that somehow they were condoning their death, but you've just got to be realistic and sensible about these things. I use an example: if you're in a schoolyard and a child taunts and taunts and taunts another child, and then that child springs back and retaliates, not to justify those actions, but were we surprised when that happens?
All right, but let me ask you what I asked Pat, and if, let's say, okay, you know, they didn't deserve to die, but they taunted, so they deserved some kind of punch. Let's say they win, and they basically have won, not with that magazine, but even their new magazine cover, nobody's showing on TV. So they've won to an extent. And now we have the President of the United States talking about, still, through his spokesperson today or 2 days ago, how I'm all for free speech, but. So they're winning. So let's say they say, oh, this is pretty easy. You know what we don't like also? We don't like women in politics. And if Hillary Clinton runs for president, or if you elect a female senator, or any female people in Congress anymore, we're going to start blowing you up. And they'd say they do blow something up. Should we then say, well, you know, maybe we should look at this. They're offended after all.
Yeah, no, I certainly see what you're saying, but I think there's a clear line of distinction between, okay, take the example of women in politics, or offending someone's deepest beliefs. I just don't think our secular Western society...
Well, wait a minute, Bernard.
Yeah.
Not to not let you talk, but their religious beliefs, in other words, there's been a cross in a jar of urine. There's been, you know, been all kinds of defecated elephant dung on the Virgin Mary. Jews have been insulted. Other religions have been insulted. So this is in line with that. They're the only religion who reacts this way. So if it's also, we know how radical Islamists believe women should be, what their role should be. So what if they insist that's how we treat women? Because we're offending them.
Yeah. Well, we can't bide to every demand, but I think this one really did push them up. I understand what you're saying, but we're in a Western democracy, a Western civilization as well. They are living amongst us in that nation. You can't go that far, obviously, Steve. I think you'd appreciate that, but we've got to draw the line somewhere and say, you know, there are certain things we hold dear. I would protect the rights as much of the Prophet Muhammad not to be mocked as I would for, you know, Christ not to be dropped in a bucket of urine, etc. I think what they're doing at Charlie Hebdo just shows a complete disregard and breakdown of social order. They don't understand the level of deep level of faith people have, or deep level of belief people have, and you just can't go around mocking that to your content.
Yeah, but Bernard, it's not. I'm not talking about the Christ, the cross in urine on Charlie's magazine. I'm talking about it here in New York City when Giuliani was mayor. Taxpayer-funded art, quote unquote. I mean, so but again, you say you can't draw. You say you can't. Oh, you got to draw the line somewhere. Well, I don't know how you, once you draw a line, I don't know how you stop from redrawing that line.
Yeah, we have that issue in Australia. You know, we've got a significant Muslim population here, and people say, well, now they're here, we don't want them to build schools, we don't want them to do this, we don't want them to do that. You know, in a sense, it's too late. This population is here. We need to understand how we're going to work with these people. I mean, I think part of the problem in Islam, if I can say, is that, well, who's calling the authority? Who's making the decision that this is what the Quran believes, this is what the Hadith says? Someone's saying this, someone's saying that. And I mean, in Australia, I don't know if you have the problem in the US, everyone's saying, well, these aren't moderate Muslims. These aren't the real Muslims. Well, they're walking around with flags saying, I'm Islamic. So, I mean, obviously, they're a little mucked up in perhaps their understanding. I don't know. I'm not an Islamic scholar.
Bernard, are you willing to give them no-go zones and Sharia law in their own communities?
I don't think in this country, well, certainly not in Australia, I wouldn't say that. No, because I mean, you're in the country, you're in our system here. You enter into that.
But then if you're in the country and you got to respect the culture and the laws, then you got to respect the freedom of speech that goes along with it. I mean, I just don't like this drawing of lines.
Yeah. Well, it's true. You do have to respect the freedom of speech, but then as Jay Carney said in the White House some years back, you know, it's not the questioning of the freedom of speech, it's the decision as to what's proper at a certain time.
I know, Bernard, but once you say I believe in freedom of speech, but then you're in trouble. Hey, great conversation, Bernard. Thank you very much. We'll be back with columnist for the Newark Star-Ledger, Paul Molshine, talk all about Chris Christie. But what about your medications? How do you dispose of them? Let's watch.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kiran Patel, and I'm a pain management physician and anesthesiologist. It's important to know how to safely discard of unneeded prescription medication. You want to follow any specific disposal instructions on the prescription drug labeling or the patient information that accompanies the medication. If no disposal instructions are given on the prescription drug labeling and no take-back programs are available in your area, here are some simple steps that you can follow. Remove medication from any original containers and mix them with undesirable substance. Place the mixture in a sealable bag, empty can, or other container to prevent the drug from leaking out or breakage of the garbage bag. Some other important considerations to keep in mind is that before throwing out a medicine container, scratch out all identifying information on the prescription label to make it unreadable. And when in doubt about proper disposal, talk to your physician or pharmacist.